What's up, Samurai? Today I'm gonna be showing you guys my room. So this is kind of a bit of a dream come true for me because I've never had an office. I've never had a room that I could dedicate to my specific setup, right? And because of it, I've had a lot of time to think, a lot of time to ponder, okay, what do I want it to look like? What's my ideal office situation? And this is it. So obviously, it doesn't really make much sense for me to have an office like this when 90% of the time I'm using my green screen in videos anyways. But it's more so for me, and sometimes I don't end up using the green screen, and then you'll get to see some of this beauty behind me. However, with the current camera that I use for all of my videos, it actually only records from this right poster to that shelf. And even then, it only records like the 3 middle shelves. So my point is, even if I use Facecam and don't end up using the green screen, you're still not going to end up seeing all this beauty. For today's video, it's gonna be a little bit of a lengthier one because I'm gonna run you guys through everything that's on all of these shelves. And then I'm also going to end up giving you guys a write-up of what my setup is and what all of my PC parts are and just what the heck is going on back here. Okay, so starting over here, we've got Tema, which I don't even remember where Mariko and I got him. Here's where I put my hats. I still have a third hat that I'm waiting on, which is gonna end up having the new logo that's gonna go up there. And then the other hat is the one that I'm wearing right now, which has the old logo. This was from the collector's edition of Skyrim. This is from a limited time PewDiePie figurine thing. I wish I could have my own, that would be epic, but I'm not popular enough, unfortunately. This is something that my brother made for me. The camera's not picking it up particularly well, but it's just a congrats for 100K subscribers thing. These are just leftover from some Disney game that my brother and me ended up covering on the channel, and I don't have anywhere else to put these guys, so I thought, okay, it balances out the dragon, whatever. And then down here, I actually grew up really into Spawn figurines, even though I never really cared that much for the show. I actually really liked the movie, which I know is kind of weird because the movie kind of sucked. But point is, I have like a whole bunch of Spawn figurines. This was just the only one that really kind of fit with the room. And then this guy right here, this is an old Power Rangers toy. Now, the funny thing is that this was actually apparently a limited edition one, and even nowadays, like apparently this thing is hella expensive, which the irony is that I didn't actually want the black and gold one back in the day. It's just this was the only one in stores because all of the other kids would buy all of the colored ones, right? So there you go. This guy, I don't even remember where I got this Gundam, but I know for a fact that I actually ended up building it, which is funny because I have absolutely no recollection of the build process itself. And I mean, it's not like I painted it or anything, but he's kind of in this standard pose because it's the only way that he can balance. And then these guys are just kind of leftover Mario, Yoshi, and Louie characters that we've had. Moving on over, we've got some disc plates, which I had these disc plates for a couple years now. I just finally got to actually put them up on the wall. And it's not as simple as you would think to put disc plates on the wall. For those of you that don't know, these are actually made of metal. So what you do is you put sticky paper on the wall, and then you stick the magnet onto the sticky paper, and then these bad boys are literally just magnetically attached to the wall right now. So the point that I tried to get with this room, and that's kind of what this ugly thing is here that I'll explain momentarily, but I don't want to put holes in the walls for like pictures and stuff like that. So that's kind of where these guys, they might end up messing up the paint, but that's simple enough to fix. And even the holes, you could just mud the hole. Okay, cool. But I don't know. I love these things. Like, I think that they're great. I've actually ordered more disc plates that I'm gonna put around the room and other places and stuff. The only problem is they're extremely expensive, and it's also US, and Canadian money sucks right now. There's a super old katana that I've had for a couple years. It's not like some super major crazy thing. It's like the handle is plastic. It does have like a blade inside it, but it's not like anything super impressive. And then I just ordered the stand online. This Pokeball, I kind of like having this here because I remember getting this from McDonald's. This is the one that has like the golden Mewtwo inside it because Mewtwo was my favorite Pokemon. So I kind of just have him there, even though he might ruin the look of just having the katana, but I don't know, whatever, man. And then we got some Bowser and Mario amiibos. Now, this is gonna seem a little bit, this is gonna seem a little bit crazy, the organization that we've got going on here. So top drawer, controllers, looking good. Second drawer, this is where we've got kind of like leftover wires and camera stuff and whatever else. And then the bottom drawer, which I might not be able to open all the way because of the green screen, but that's just got my VR headset as well as a mic that I use when I'm recording Oculus games, which I've only recorded like the one Oculus game. This is my green screen. It's the Elgato green screen. It's very, very expensive, but I love this thing because it's super easy to set up because you literally just open it up and then you lift this up to your desired height. There you go. You've got a green screen. I actually have 2 of them. So there's one over there, but I haven't needed to use 2 of them for quite some time just because I usually use 2 of them when I'm doing like VR games because I need like that extra bit of background. I also have this. It's hooked up to all of the colored lighting so that I can very easily turn it on. And then there's also actually some extra corner lighting, which is these bad boys right here. So I can actually turn that on and I can change all the colors on that thing too. And originally, like what I've got for this is I had these, which I bought from Walmart just because I thought they were cool. And then I ended up finding that they also sold these, which it's basically just a light strip that tapes onto the back of things, and then it just gives this really nice edge lighting. And I noticed that it looked a little too busy having these on and all of this, so I don't know if I'm gonna return those. I might, we'll see. Moving on to the second shelf. So I've got a whole bunch of these crazy awesome Dragon Ball figures that I ended up picking up when I was in Japan with my wife a couple years ago. I actually have a lot more than just these, but obviously I couldn't really fit them in here, so the rest of them are kind of in storage, and I just kind of picked ones that I thought were appropriate, as well as just my favorite ones. So like the Broly one, I fished out of like one of those gotcha grab machines, same with the Vegeta, and I was so proud of myself. And then we conveniently found a store right next door to the arcade that just sold these for like way cheaper than it cost to actually get them out of the crane game. So I bought like tons and tons of them. And then down here, we've squeezed Millennia from the Elden Ring Collector Edition next to my silver play button back when I used to be called Scythe Plays, so that's for 100K. Funny enough, I will probably never see the gold play button because that, it goes from, okay, you earned 100K subscribers, now try to earn 1 million. It's like, that's the next time you get a play button. So I don't know, I mean, fingers crossed you guys keep the dream alive, but realistically, I just don't see it happening, man. Not unless something explodes on the channel. But anyways, then there's my Final Fantasy VII figure. This came with the collector's edition of the Final Fantasy VII Remake and is extremely high quality, but these idiots mailed it to me broken and they wouldn't end up replacing the part. So on the other side of the bike, this thing right here actually fell off. Like it was broken right out of the box. So I just turned him around to kind of fix that. And normally I had Cloud like riding on the bike, but I set this stand up for him to kind of just stand next to it so that, you know, it just gives a highlight to both of them. And then you might also notice that underneath all of the figurines, I'm actually using electrical tape just because it doesn't really ruin the cupboard or anything. I mean, these are just cheap things I got from Walmart anyway, but the fact is that it's really, really good because the edge of the tape has kind of a material that keeps these things from shifting around. And then down here, I've got kind of the most recent active games, as well as a whole bunch of extra controllers that I don't really use or anything. Then there's my good old keyboard, which this thing kind of it's really old. It barely works, but it gets the job done. I haven't had any extra time to play it or have felt very inspired to play it. but I do like the option of having it right here. The biggest problem is that I don't have the foot pedal to have like a sustain sound. So I would hit the key, let go, hold the pedal, and it would keep reverberating the sound. I don't have that anymore because my original one broke. And then the LED display is also really like bad now, where I can only see it in specific lighting, because once upon a time, for those of you that don't know, I used to be a musician and was in, you know, my brother and I had a band and we made like tons and tons of songs. And that was kind of the OG dream of like becoming, you know, being able to do this for a living. And I don't know, there's something about playing the piano that I really just find very simple and calming versus like a string instrument. That said, this kind of fell to the wayside, and instead we moved on to this, YouTube. So this is like the main studio stuff. You know, I'm not like super picky with my gear, but at the same time, everything kind of has like a very specific function. So let's start with the boring stuff first. You're gonna notice this huge reverb in this room, right? And so I had all of this foam already. This stuff is extremely expensive, but I never really got to set it up too much in my previous space. So we would kind of just set it up like on the ceiling, because the ceiling was a lot lower. However, now in this specific room, it's kind of just bouncing right off of the wall. It's kind of bouncing off of all the walls. You can see this place it's kind of a tiny room. But point is, my dad and me set this up where this is literally like a green screen thing. So normally you would tarp over like a green screen. And instead we just ended up using some wiring to sort of stitch these together in sections. So there's one section here, a section here, a section here, so on and so forth, all the way across. And it did make a very big difference as far as the recordings are concerned. However, I noticed that my key lighting, so this is the light that I use to light up my face, as well as just in general, it lights up the green screen that goes behind me. And it was very, very low light after we set this up, because obviously black is not a reflective surface for light. And so I just kind of stapled some pieces of paper together and continued using the wiring to hang them both in front of my two alternating key lights. So this is just a super cheap stand with a really, really warm, low glow light. I put paper on this myself just because I didn't want it shining into my eyes. And then this is the Elgato key light, which again is a stupendous piece of hardware, albeit very expensive. And unfortunately, if you don't have a Wi-Fi signal that is 2.4G, you can't connect to this thing. I also have this, which turns on that light. So it's quick and easy, and I can always access it because that's kind of the main light that I leave on rather than using like the room light, just because it's too bright and just, I don't know, the fluorescence bothered me. And then this right here, let me turn my key light off so it's not so bright. This is my camera. I have this piece of paper over it because a fundamental flaw with this camera is when I have it running, the back screen is actually on permanently unless you have something covering the eye shutter. And so I just took a piece of paper and, well, there you go. It's the Sony A7R, which also has the Zeiss lens, if it would ever focus. Either way, super fancy camera. This is probably one of the most expensive things in this room, but I'm quite satisfied with it, and I don't think I'll ever end up changing it. The only thing that I would like to change would be maybe the lens, so that it would be more of a wide angle and be able to see all this beauty behind me. But the lenses are probably one of the more expensive things for the camera, so I just don't have much desire for that. Oh, and I guess I should also mention that this is my Herman Miller office chair. I think it's the Mira 2 or Mira 1 or something. I don't think they make this chair anymore because they've got newer, higher quality ones, but it's one of the first like big purchases that I made, and it really went a long way. I've been using it for years without any complaints about it. The only problem is that it didn't have a headrest, so I actually bought this like as a third-party one. And my dad helped me, like there's literally a block of wood here because it wouldn't fit on the chair, so we kind of just forced it to work. And then even then the mesh on the back of it really aggravates my scalp, and so that's why we have the traditional bath towel just chilling there. Oh, and I should also mention too that I'm using the Florpad, spelt wrong. Unfortunately, this thing's only in the UK, so it was very, very overpriced for me at the time. But this is really, really good if you have uneven flooring. Technically, I don't even think I have to use something like this anymore, but I like it because it gives you a nice grip with rolling chairs so that they don't shift around a lot. My main monitor is a Samsung curved monitor. I love curved monitors. Like as soon as I found this thing, I was just in love with it and I picked it up immediately. This is an old ass 4K monitor. So when I say that, I mean that I picked this monitor up before 4K became like kind of a more standard thing. So much so that this monitor was so advanced that Windows didn't actually support the resolution and everything was microscopically tiny. Same with my speakers. These are just kind of crappy Walmart speakers. I basically just use my speakers until they die and then I just get new ones from Walmart that are currently whatever the cheapest ones are. One thing that I would like would be like kind of one of the speakers that is just one solid thing. Like I saw one of those like at Best Buy the other day and I was like, oh my God, I want it. But I can't justify replacing these speakers because they still currently work. And then we've got the Elgato Stream Deck, which this thing is awesome. It's expensive as well as everything with Elgato, but this is a huge, like, I highly recommend this because you can set up, like I have all my recording programs, I have my light set up here, and it all shows a little picture here as well. So I made a custom little record emote. So as soon as I press this and it starts recording, I made it so that it inverts the colors. So I can basically look down here to confirm that I'm recording without having to look over at my second monitor and stuff. It's a lot easier, a lot more convenient and so on and so forth. So first of all, my mic. I use a Shure SM7B. I personally think any mic above this is overkill for YouTube. So, you know, in these videos, I often mention how Jacksepticeye, he's got an overboard mic because his mic is basically designed to record full bands, like a whole bunch of instruments live at once, and it's gonna do it very, very well. Whereas this is for commentary and for singing, and generally speaking is the highest quality that you need to get. Not that you need to get it, obviously there's so much more like USB mics that just get the job done and programs that you can use otherwise to get the job done. But my point is that anything higher than this is overkill, and even so, this is probably a little bit overkill. Most of all because this monster right here, because this is the LA610 Mark II. This is my preamp. This I specifically got so that I could make my voice sound the way that I want through my mic without having to touch any editing software. So I don't have to waste any time editing or tweaking the way that it sounds or anything. Now this is also something I found super duper fancy. I don't know why I only found these types of things more recently, but it's a cup holder slash headphone holder. And you can see that this desk didn't actually come with a keyboard holder, so I actually just bought this sucker separately. The keyboard itself is just some Razer keyboard from Walmart. I didn't really care that much. This mouse pad was bought from a friend of mine when he was visiting. And then this is just the G602 Logitech mouse, which I only use this just because it's super duper comfortable, but I'll probably have to move on from it because I'm sure it's gonna be discontinued soon. These numbers right here are because this is actually a standing desk. Over here I've got these little things set up for like mouse, like wireless mouse, phone charger slash charging my phone headset whenever I'm doing like calls and junk like that. PS5, Nintendo Switch. I don't really have an ideal spot for these two bad boys yet. Both of the consoles going into an HDMI splitter. This is something I recommend if you ever want to record multiple like consoles, just because this thing's like so freaking dirt cheap anyways. Basically, with whatever console turns on is going to dominate that thing and automatically switch it to the proper output. You could do that for like a TV as well. My wire situation might look crazy, but when you think that there's probably like maybe, there's so many wires here that I've done a pretty good job of this. Like a lot of the ones that are hanging and spidering around is either like my mic one, or these are like related to the standing desk wires. But these back here is like 4 or 5 or 6 different monitor wires, and other power adapters and so on and so forth. And then even these little boxes, I have a bunch of wires like wrapped in them and power bars hidden in them and stuff. And don't worry, it's all safe. It's all set up in such a way that they're not like overlapping with one another. This is kind of like my backup generator because my old place, we had really bad power, and so we would get brownouts all the time. And so if too many things were on, like say the oven and the dishwasher and the dryer, the power would just die. And so this thing came in handy because I had my computer and everything set up into it in such a way that I could I would have time to turn my computer off or stop the stream or whatever. Right over here I have hidden away a whole bunch of backup storage hard drives. This is where I put like lots of my videos and stuff that I don't want on my computers anymore. I don't have these hard drives on, that's why I have them covered. I just don't have anything fancier to hide them in. Now, as far as the parts inside my computer, because people are always asking like, what's my PC? So I have an RTX 3090 for my graphics card. I have an Intel Core i9-9960X for my CPU, which is 3.10 gigahertz. It's not the best like CPU for gaming, but it was really good for like speed of editing and software like that because it's got so much multi-threading. However, I bought it when Intel was still really expensive, and now Intel is like so much cheaper because they actually have competition for once in their life. I've got 64 gigs RAM, and then otherwise my main monitor is running at 2K resolution, 60 hertz, because nothing can be recorded over 60 frames right now. Now, next we can talk about my software. So I use OBS for all my recordings and streams and stuff with some very custom settings that I've slowly refined over the years. I also use Adobe Premiere Pro CS6 to edit my videos, even though it is kind of destroyed by the newer version of Adobe. But the new version of Adobe, you have to pay a subscription fee to use, whereas this one, you just buy and own once, and there you go. I also started using NVIDIA Broadcast more recently because it has a beta effect right now which removes room echo. This is a free program and so far actually works pretty good. Yeah, anyways, that's pretty much gonna do it, everybody. So the camera is overheating, so I just wanted to leave you with these final words and saying that all of this stuff took years and years of saving to end up getting it, and even then I'm actually quite frivolous with all of these things. Like I would save up, maybe get 1 or 2 pieces of equipment and then just save up. And in no way is any of this equipment required to make good content. Okay, so if you're just starting out on YouTube, don't be one of those scumbags that looks at the bigger YouTuber and goes, I need all of this to be successful, because you don't. You just start doing videos without any excuses. And even then, like, all of this stuff is fairly cheap and within my budget. Like, you know, these are just from Walmart. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it, and I hope to have your continued support going into 2023. Smash like, sub for more, buy the merch you want to support the channel. We're gonna have new merch soon based on the new logo, Sheen. Camera's overheating. Bye, guys.